Podcasts make tons of money, almost as much money as the king of podcasts himself, Joe Rogan. But having this much money can make you a target for crime. And unfortunately, some have been scammed.
Our podcast was defrauded. We were stolen from. We were taken advantage of. A lot of ways to say it. We're part of a larger group of podcasts that were stolen from. There's up to $4 million that I know of that people were taking advantage of. We're in the 6 figures. I know of podcasts that are in the 7 figures.
Sources say Colin Thomas at Kast Media is the accused party.
That's right. Colin Thomas scammed them. Or did he? Today, we're going to find out. We want to find who's responsible so that this can be avoided in the future. And if we don't shed light on the truth, many more people could be affected. But before we do that, what is Kast? We got to know the players of the game. I wanted to get the inside scoop on Kast Media, so I actually applied for a job. But unfortunately, they're not hiring, probably because they're going out of business. And turns out that seems to be the case, according to an inside source. Now, this inside source, what they said is the sales team actually completely left the company. Many of the people in the company on their LinkedIn profiles have open for work as an option on their account, and many others have just flat out left. So it looks like I won't be getting a job there anytime soon. But there's gotta be another way for me to get in on the inside. And what better way than being a potential customer? But I don't want to potentially fund a scam and enable them to scam more people. So that's probably not a good option either. But that's enough about Kast. Let's talk about Colin. Now, aside from Colin's amazing hair, guys, we have to give it to him. We have to play fair, okay? We don't know what actually happened. He started Kast in 2015. In order to find out more information on Colin, I actually requested to be an Instagram follower. So I'll let you know if he accepts, probably not. Now let's take a look at some of the podcasters involved. First, and dare I say most notable, is Theo Von. Now, aside from just being a brother in mullet,
I'm saying
Theo's a funny guy. I want to be as fair as possible, but it's kind of hard not to like Theo. Now, aside from Theo, there are many others. We have Whitney Cummings and many others who are still waiting for payments from Kast. But I didn't have all the information that I needed, so I decided to drive to my school and do more research. Here we are. Personally, I don't think you can get that far without actually having a legitimate business. I don't think you can get people involved like Theo Von or Whitney Cummings without having some legitimate basis to you. And again, the whole reason we're doing this is we want to make sure this doesn't happen to other people. This doesn't happen to other podcasts. Let's find out who's responsible. Let's keep investigating. I spent hours researching, looking all over the place to see what I could find. And then I found something interesting. Now let's understand some of the mechanics involved just in getting people on board. Let's look at some of the cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are shortcuts on how our brain makes decisions. In the wrong hands, these biases can be used to exploit people. First and foremost, reward bias. Hearing people say that they made 1 point this or 1 point that, it's gonna be pretty enticing to go along with whatever method they're trying. And if they're already friends, it's already familiar, and it's just so much easier to go along into something like that. Especially if you have already known them in the past and they're kind of already connected in that network, they're already familiar, it already just feels safe. And of course we know that's called the bandwagon effect. Now, one thing I want to mention about this podcast is we're trying to get more subscribers than Richard Branson. If we're able to pass him in subscribers, we might be able to interview him live on this channel. So feel free to consider subscribing if you want to see us reach this goal. I know I can't do it without you guys, so consider doing it. I think this car next to me is listening. I'm gonna have to be a little bit more careful when talking about scams. Almost got caught again. I was feeling discouraged, but it wasn't until I went home that things really started to click. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to get in the mindset of a podcaster, we actually have to start a podcast. Welcome to the first episode. Actually, I already have a couple episodes. Feel free to check them out if you want. Link in the description. I thought this would help us understand what it would actually be like to be approached by Kast in this situation. If I'm a smaller podcast trying to get more viewers and trying to make this a full-time income, then my approach is going to be a little bit different than Theo Von's. One of the perks or benefits when working with Kast is a guaranteed amount of income for a year. Now, if I'm a solo entrepreneur that has been focusing on taking this podcast off the ground and has experienced nothing but risk for the past 2 years, of course I'd be interested in something with a fixed amount of income. Now imagine relying on that check and Kast slowly sending that check a week later, a few months later, even just not even getting it. Imagine the devastation in that podcast's little heart when they find out their money isn't coming in, and that's money that they earned. Now you can understand the frustration and the anger that a lot of these podcasters have, including Theo. Starting this podcast was great, but now we got to figure out what actually happened. Now, who did this? this? Who's responsible? Now, here's what I think happened. I think Colin initially started having good intentions for the company. I think initially it was making people money, and many of the initial people that got in said they've made great returns. However, when more people came in and there was more, I guess, complexity on people to manage, I think that's where Colin really started to slip. I think he was being a little aggressive and frivolous in his spending, which caused a cash flow problem. What he should have done when payments were just a few months late, should have stepped out being like, hey guys, this is what's going on. These are all my cards. We're in this together. Let's figure this out. But unfortunately, Colin didn't do this. He continued to buy things and hide assets in an LLC in Wyoming. Pretty crazy. And because of this, it's hurt so many creators and many of the fans too. You just read the comments on Theo Vaughn's video. No one likes to see anyone be cheated out of anything. So I think this is a good situation gone very, very bad. Really a mess, to be honest. My first email for a podcast looks like a potential sponsor opportunity. Maybe I should sign up. It says they can help find sponsors and I could potentially get more money.